Welcome back to another episode of Stelmo's Rants and Raves. I'm Stelmo. Let's jump right in here. Okay, so I'm looking at a headline today. Colorado law requires universities to supply abortion pills. And this particular headline and story clearly, in my humble opinion, illustrates why ultimately we're going to lose our country. So out in Colorado, they want women to have them keep a supply of abortion pills at the student health centers. And first off, I believe that this should be a prescription medication, and only doctors should be able to prescribe it, and only in emergency conditions which threaten the life of the mother. I can't. I'm anti-abortion. I think it's a horrible thing. We lost track years ago when we played into the loony leftist argument that an embryo is not a viable human, and it's really nothing to just clean that nonsense out, so to speak. At least that's how they look at it, not me. Trust me, not me. So I think it's bad. I think it's horrific, actually, that a state is requiring institutions to supply this drug to women. Now, one of the things that this article doesn't necessarily mention, and that is who is paying for the pill. Well, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that they're expecting the schools to pick this up. But there are numerous instances of things similar to this, where states are requiring various institutions to do various things, which inevitably cost them all money. And it seems to me, and let me say I'm not a lawyer, but it seems to me that this is a violation of the 4th and 15th Amendment, because it's the taking of property without due process of law. And it would seem to me that, pursuant to our Constitution, that the universities in this case should be able, on an individual basis, to litigate each and every one of these things. Because it may not be the same argument for each woman seeking the pill. And so therefore it's feasible that they could have a slightly modified argument in each case. But, one of the things, or several other things that bother me in this same vein is that these legislatures all take an oath, and part of their oath is to support and uphold the Constitution. And when you pass legislation that violates the Constitution, you're violating your oath that you swore under. Now, in some isolated cases, I imagine that these legislators can take the position that, well, I didn't know it violated the law. And perhaps maybe they didn't. But in most of these cases, these people know what's going on, and they're willing to do it because they're ideologues, and their ideology is much more important to them than some silly oath that they had to adhere to. And, a second element here, a good portion of our legislatures are attorneys. And I think one of the reasons for that is attorneys are taught how to speak. And many of them are eloquent, and they're able to sway the voting population. Well, I can't tell you that I have read every single state's rules of professional regulation, but they're all fundamentally the same, and any differences generally might be in the verbiage and how they put it all together. But these rules mandate that a lawyer be honest in his dealings, and it's not just his professional dealings, as he's working as a lawyer, but in all his dealings. And it has never ceased to amaze me that we have all these attorneys and all these legislative bodies, and they're constantly passing laws that violate the Constitution, and they lie about it, and they get away with their lies because anymore there is no repercussion for being dishonest. And trust me, these people learn. First off, they're taught how to, how shall I say, couch their position in such language that it's not really dishonest, but it's perhaps we can say deceptive. And, let me give an example of this. Comes to my mind right away, and it goes back to President Clinton, when he so famously, or should I say infamously, said, "I did not have sex with that woman, Miss Lewinsky." So he was apparent a fine line there where his definition of sex did not include oral. And what's the second word there? Sex, with Monica Lewinsky. So his position was always like, I didn't lie. I just, you just misunderstood what I was saying. Now, this is probably one of the more flagrant examples you can come up with. But there are so many times, and politicians routinely lied to the voters. And at least in theory, and there was a point in time in this country when if the lawyers did this, they would be brought up on bar charges and there would be repercussions. And it helped to prevent this and these type of fiascos. But today, I mean, lying is, I remember when Barack Obama won his first term, and I forget what point it was, but somebody had asked him why he hadn't done something. And some loony leftist reprobate from the press, they came out and said, well, that's only a campaign promise. You don't he just did that to get elected. You don't expect him to have to do all these things. Well, yes, actually we do. See, that's the whole purpose of having an election, so you can portray your opinion and people can listen to your opinion and say, hey, is this a person I want to be in charge or not? But today voters are I'm going to say 90% of the voters are unaware of the issues. Yeah, they may have some knowledge on one or two of the higher issues of relevancy at that particular time, but overall, it's just that, I don't know, both morals and ethics are practically void within these legislators' bodies. And I hate to say this, but that goes for the Republicans as much as the Democrats. They're liars. Once again, we got 4 alleged Republican senators holding up the SAVE Act. Now, I'm gonna, who do I blame for this? Well, it's certainly Thune's fault. See, Thune is a rhino. I do not believe Thune wants this to pass. If Thune wanted it to pass, it would get passed because he holds enough power over these senators that if he's willing to wield that power, they're going to give in. But we can't even get the SAVE Act passed to bring fairness to elections. And part of the problem is right in the beginning, they added this nonsense about, if anything, transgender children. And you have to wonder what, and this was actually a easing of the position of the party on this, because they added this clause that if parents agreed, that it'd be fine for the person to have the surgery. And that's bizarre. It's lunacy. But I maintain it was thrown in that bill deliberately to kill it. And this is why I would have never endorsed John Thune. Certainly would have never endorsed him to be Senate Majority Leader. Now, I don't think that the president should have campaigned against them, but he should have just kept quiet. And there's nothing abnormal about that. Just don't make an endorsement, and hope and pray that the people of that, whichever particular area is in question, in this case, Thune is in South Dakota, so you would hope that the voters in South Dakota would be able to know enough to see that this guy is not just hurting their state, but hurting the country, and in a major way, because we're seeing out in California now how crooked elections are. And I've said it before, I'm going to repeat it again. One of my big problems with the Republican Party is it's reactionary. It's reactive, whereas the Democratic Party is proactive. So I am absolutely certain that there are multiple meetings going on in multiple closed-door meetings among these deranged leftist lunatics, and they're trying to figure out what new ways can they come up with to cheat that nobody's picked up on yet, so that they can throw some more elections come the midterms. And you can see, based on what's happened in California, these people have absolutely no fear. I mean, it's just shameful. It really is shameful what's going on out there. And now we have colleges have to, because college students apparently are not, they don't have enough control over themselves to make sure that they use birth control. And there's plenty of birth control out there. I don't want to hear this, that they can't afford it. It's not that expensive. And they can go, if necessary, to clinics where they can get it for free. So they just choose not to. And then they put themselves in these compromising positions where they find themselves pregnant and in college. You know, the only 100% effective method of birth control is abstinence, but of course, they don't want to hear that. They have been raised to believe that people should enjoy sex. They should enjoy it early, start generally about 10 or 11 years old is what they want, and have sex change and stuff at perhaps even earlier years, because even though they may be sexually inactive, they certainly know in their minds once they go through puberty and adolescence and everything, and they know much younger what sex they want to turn out at the end of that. And so it's only proper, you know, if their young man is, let's say, 5 or 6, just take them and do the surgery and maim them then for life, both physically and mentally. You know, we're hearing now from some of these people detransitioning when they talk about the horrible experience it is. Well, it is a horrible experience. And yet, it's shameful. It's shameful that we now have governments saying you have to let them have these abortion drugs. You must let them have it. And I say, actions have consequences. And you've made your bed, and they should be forced to lie in it. You know, trust me, if women actually start seeing where other women are forced out of college because they're pregnant, you see how fast that problem gets. And let me add to that, they also have to see that there's not going to be a easy out for them to run to their dispensary at their university. You know, when I was in school, to my knowledge, we didn't have any kind of dispensaries where there were any kind of drugs available. If you need something like that, you best make an appointment with the doctor or, a clinic. But times have changed, and people think this is for the best. I'm not so sure how good it is, but it is what it is, and hopefully at some point in time that these schools object to this, which, out there, these schools are run by a bunch of perverted protagonists out there, and they think this is great. They think this is a great idea, and I think it's sad. I really think it's sad. And in the meantime, babies continue to get aborted at an alarming rate, and the birth rate has significantly decreased, where natural-born Americans, the birth rate is below the rate of maintaining that particular population. And so, but for immigration, our population would be declining. And I suggest that it still may be declining, because I'm not sure that there's been as many immigrants as we have. I'm not sure it's enough to negate all the years of negative birth percentage. So we'll all have to see how this plays out. But this is a sad thing when you see governments do stuff like this. And it's another illustration of why, we probably lost the war, and doesn't bode well for the future of this country. With that, I'm going to wish you a good day. You all stay safe. It's a crazy world out there. It certainly is getting crazier by the day, but it is what it is. Thank you. Bye-bye.